Hey y'all, my name's Jen. I'm a health and life coach on a mission to empower women, and this season I call the messy middle. We believe it's never too late to dream your wildest dreams and to build lives freed from the shoulds and have-tos. Here, we talk to ourselves like we do our girlfriends and our sisters and daughters. I will share stories and resources with lots of encouragement and a little bit of tough love to drive you toward action. In this podcast, we talk about everything: career, relationships, motherhood, and health. So grab your sneakers and let's go, because she's wild and freed. Hey y'all. Welcome to another episode of She's Wild and Freed. I'm your host, Jen, and I am looking forward to this conversation today. So to do something a little different, I'm going to start this podcast episode with a quote. Remember, you have been criticizing yourself for years, and it hasn't worked. Try approving of yourself and see what happens. This is a quote by Louise Hay, and it is so good. And honestly, I feel a little called out by it, but also seen. If you're not familiar with Louise Hay, she wrote a book, among others, but she wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. It's a good one, so check it out if you're interested. So as you can see, we're talking about loving ourselves today. And if you've listened to the intro of this podcast, I say we talk to ourselves like we do our sisters, daughters, and girlfriends. But to be honest, that's easier said than done. How many of us, raise your hand, this is listener participation time, looked in the mirror today and criticized something? Be honest. Maybe you don't consciously remember, but if you think back to that time, you may remember that you picked apart some part of your body or some part of you. Or maybe you looked at your bank account and criticized your spending. Maybe you looked at your to-do list and criticized yourself for not getting enough done. Maybe you're running late when you're dropping your kid off at school, or you haven't addressed that maintenance light in your car. Maybe you planned to work out today and didn't, and now you're feeling ashamed of yourself. It's actually insane how often we talk down to ourselves or should all over ourselves. We should be here, or we should look this way. I should have that done. Today's episode is all about loving ourselves, all of us. Specifically, we are going to talk about our bodies. If I think about it, I have been at war with my body since the 1980s. What the heck? It started with my feet. I had really long feet. So just like a lot of kids, my feet grew before the rest of me did. I felt like a clown, or I would say, here I am walking around with these skis. Then puberty hit and I started comparing myself to other girls. My boobs were too small. I used to pray to God on the regular for boobs. Any Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret fans out there? Yeah, I read the book multiple times as a kid, and then even picked it back up when the movie was coming out a couple of years ago. I said so many prayers. Then my hips expanded and my butt got bigger, and I felt disproportioned. I got really into sports in high school and fitness into college, so some of those feelings subsided during that time. But then I had babies. I felt so proud that my body carried twins to term. and I never had any restrictions or bed rest. And then after, I didn't worry too much about getting my body back because I knew what I had accomplished by birthing my babies, which was so amazing. But then that inner critic creeped in and I started criticizing the stretch marks or the extra skin. Then my hips were a little wider and things just didn't go back into the place the way they used to be. This is crazy. I'm listening to myself talk and realizing I've spent many, many hours, or if I'm really being honest, many years of my life picking apart areas of my body that I don't like or I'm not satisfied with. I'm wondering if any of you listening, maybe you specifically, can relate. What the heck are we doing? Was it the supermodel era? Was it Women's Health magazine? Maybe looking at women online who quote unquote bounced back after giving birth. Maybe it's women at work that we compare ourselves to, or our sisters or our friends. The truth is, we all do it. We all think we should change something. We wish some part of us looked different. And I'm here to declare right now, it's not worth it. I mean, even just the other day, I was working on another episode script and I looked down at my hands as I was typing and thought, when did my hands start looking old? WTF? I mean, the thing is, hope is not lost here. We can all shift our thinking to love ourselves exactly the way we are, the way we were created to be. And I've been learning a little bit about inner child work lately. And I heard a great podcast episode with Joanna Gaines. Chip, her husband, which if you're not familiar, they're the couple that did the Fixer Upper show on HGTV. Now, of course, they have a giant brand, or maybe they've had it since then too, Magnolia, that's in Target, among other places. So he was interviewing her about her recent book, The Stories We Tell. And she talked a lot about being a little girl and the moment she realized that she cared what others thought. I immediately thought back to my 7 or 8-year-old self. That little girl was confident, not afraid to try new things. She had skinned knees and straggly hair. She played with her Barbies and My Little Ponies and played with her brother. They played He-Man and Legos. She loved to ride her bike, run, jump, and laugh. Smiling and laughing were happening all the time. Do you remember the last time you laughed? Like belly laughed? Didn't care how you looked at the time, tears coming out of your eyes, your jaw hurting. And even if you remember that, how long ago has it been? For some reason, as we grow up, laughing slows down and sometimes is non-existent in our daily lives. That's something interesting to think about, though. Like, how often are we smiling and laughing each day? And can we increase that? Or once I got into 4th grade, and really it's once my family moved to a new place, I became painfully aware of myself. The way I talked, the way I walked, my smarts, my athletic abilities or lack thereof, my hair, my clothes. Although I hadn't started puberty yet, the environment I was in and the things I heard on the bus definitely plunged me into a new era of physical awareness. I also spent a lot of time in solitude, which increased my worry and feelings of shame. I related so much to Joanna Gaines' story. And there's definitely differences in our stories, but also a lot of similarities. Like the realization around fourth grade that I was different, or at least I thought I was different. Interactions between boys and girls shift around that time, even between girls and girls. Side note to that, my girls have talked about watching the Mean Girls movie, really the original, not the most recent one that's come out, but they talk about it several times, or they've talked about it several times. And I just can't. I experienced enough of that in my real life. I just can't imagine watching it play out on the screen. My point is to all of this, I wonder if anyone out there listening can relate. And I wonder if you look back or even close your eyes and see out of her eyes your 7 or 8-year-old self, how she experienced the world. How she didn't worry about, quote unquote, being a good girl or being pretty or being quiet. I don't remember worrying about how my clothes fit or even what I was wearing at the time. I don't recall criticizing my looks or my actions or scrutinizing how I appeared to others. Can you connect back to her? And just look at the world through her eyes. One of my favorite scenes in the Barbie movie, so I'm referring to several movies in this episode, is when stereotypical Barbie, who's played by Margot Robbie, is sitting on a bench and she looks over at an elderly woman and tells her, "You're so beautiful." The elderly woman looks back at her and says, "I know it." I almost get teary-eyed even thinking about it now. You are beautiful. I am beautiful. But we don't need others to tell us that or to reinforce it. We can exude beauty and strength and joy because that's just who we are. I have an exercise that I would like for us to commit to doing together. It's not easy. And if you've been listening to this podcast for a little while, I say that often. I'm like, hey, this is what we're doing. It's not easy. But change, shifting habits, taking action, it's hard. It's not always easy. So I totally get it. But I know, and you know, that we can do this together. So this activity that I'm going to recommend actually may be really, really hard for some of us, but the power of this exercise, the life-changing impact it will have, is totally worth the discomfort and even the pain that it may cause at first. Are you ready? I know, I've just totally hyped this up to being amazing, right? Okay, I want you to go to your bathroom mirror, like right now, if you're home. If you're not home, it's okay. I really highly recommend you do this later today. Now that we're at our bathroom mirror, I want you to look yourself straight in the eyes. Look at yourself and say, "I love you." I know, it sounds silly, it sounds weird, and it will be uncomfortable. You may really struggle to get the words out, or you may giggle the whole time, and that's totally normal. You may go to the mirror and look at yourself and no words come out. You may even start crying. You see, we tell everyone in our lives how much we love them, how much we appreciate them. what we love about them, how awesome they are. But we put all of our energy into everyone and everything else. We show love through our actions and words to family, friends, or even strangers. And when we turn to ourselves, there's nothing left. Or we can't bear to tell ourselves, I love you. If you were able to say it, keep going. Tell yourself, that radiant, magical, on fire creature in front of you, I love you. And continue to say it for at least 20 times. Yep, 20 times. And say it like you mean it. Change the inflection in your voice. Emphasize I, and then love, and then you. If you went up to the mirror and no words came out, or you just can't do it, that's okay. Take a deep breath in and exhale out. And notice the feelings that come up around this exercise. Don't force yourself if it's too hard right now. Just notice. Maybe sit with your journal or find a quiet place to sit with these feelings, the thoughts and emotions that are coming up. Tomorrow, I encourage you to try again. It may take 20 times before you can tell yourself, I love you, in the mirror. But commit today to doing this work. For those of you who've moved through this exercise and are telling this beautiful being in the mirror, I love you, also journal on what feelings are coming up. And repeat this exercise every day. Try it for the next 7 days. This exercise is for you. And the action is for you to look at that girl and say, you are safe and you are held. You are magnificent. You are radiant. You are strong. You are soft. You are amazing. All of those statements are true. You just have to believe yourself when you say it. Loving yourself, accepting the person you are, all of the scars, lumps, bumps, dark spots, smile lines, stretch marks, gray hairs, brings you to a place in your journey of healing and health. In the previous episode, we talked about stress and the effects on the body. So if you didn't listen to that, go back and listen after we finish this one. Holding on to negative energy about ourselves, critical thoughts, shame, and worry won't allow us to move forward and to live the life of our dreams. So let's try this together. Commit to 7 days of loving ourselves in the mirror. If you enjoyed this episode and you think someone in your circle would too, would you share it with her? Also, if you aren't already, please like, follow, and subscribe on the platform you're listening on. These things help so much. Finally, if you feel so moved to do so, share this episode or previous ones you liked on your social media. Just click share and you'll get a link to copy and paste into your stories. You're awesome, and I love you. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I hope you feel free to take action toward building the life of your dreams. If something in this episode resonated with you, I would so appreciate it if you would text it to a girlfriend so she can hear the message as well. Until next time, stay wild.